Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Marile Robles, and I'm going to be your presenter for today. You can use the chat to share or to ask your questions. There is a Q&A button as well. I shared the link. Let me share it again so you can access the slides and the resources. That we're going to be talking about today. And then today is See a Dust Storm, Submit Your Photos with Globe Observer. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys. Again, my name is Marile Robles, and I'm going to be talking to you about how we are working with researchers to look at ground observations of dust. And then how can you submit those observations so that researchers can use that to better predict their models so that they can do forecasts for people in those regions, particularly maybe you are in that region, and how you can protect yourself. And so this is part of the GLOBE program. I see some GLOBE teachers online today, so thank you so much for joining. GLOBE stands for Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. It's been around since 1995. It's NASA's largest and longest running citizen science or volunteer science program. There's 121 countries involved, 34,000 schools, over 140,000 citizen scientists involved with the Globe Observer app, and a number of publications. So this is one of the work with the DUST program that we want to use. We're working directly with researchers to better your situation, but also hopefully to produce some research publications as well. In GLOBE, there's protocols or just steps on how to do a collection of observations about your environment. We are under air and we're under clouds. This is where we're at. And you might wonder why. Well, because under the clouds, it's one of the best ways we're finding right now to collect these observations. So again, my name is Marile Colón Robles. It's in Spanish because I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm always been curious about learning about how things worked. Love animals, love sharks for those of you that have been in my webinars before. I love Komodo dragons, anything that's particular or different, I just love. I love music, so those are some pictures of me and my music group, which I was able to participate and pay for college, but also travel and be a recorded artist, all these awesome things that I still use today. I've also been an educator, an education specialist, as well as a scientist. So there's pictures of one of the most amazing groups of teachers in Eastern North Carolina right there with my best friend, Rosemary Smith. And then I'm also a scientist. So there's a picture on the bottom when I was in grad school or graduate schooling to become an atmospheric scientist or a scientist that studies the atmosphere, the weather, the climate. I got to fly in that airplane as part of a research campaign and look at data as the airplane is flying into and outside of clouds. So clouds, it's always been my favorite, but I did study aerosols and cloud interactions. So this campaign about dust is really interesting for me as a scientist, but also as an educator. And so here are the two scientists that are very, very interested in your observations right now. Dr. Daniel Tong and Dr. Kirsten Shapansky. They both work with dust or air quality observations. And what they're asking is to get observations from the ground or from where we are at compared to satellites, which is the top down, so from the bottom up, so that they can check their models. So they're running forecast models or using computations and computers to figure out when will a dust event occur around the world. But they need reports of when it's happening right then and there so that they can see if the model is analyzing, can capture it, can predict it. And if not, then they use those observations to figure out why and then how to make it better. So these are your two scientists who are looking at observations daily since we started this a few weeks ago. And so we're really excited and we want your observations. So how can you submit your reports and your photographs? We really want photographs of these dust storms. We want you to use the Globe Observer app. So the Globe Observer app is part of the Globe program. It started not too long ago, a few years ago, and it steps you through how to make an observation. All you need is an account. So you need an email, you download it. It's available for Androids and Apple devices, and then you can make your observations. When you go into the app, you'll notice that there's different observations that you can do. We want you to go into the clouds portion to make these dust observations, okay? Now, safety first, right? We're NASA, so safety is always a main concern. And so right now, yes, we're asking you to take pictures and observations of dust storms, but we want you first in a safe spot. So if you are in a location where the dust storm is happening, we want you either inside of a building, inside of a vehicle. I found this at Tucson website that said pull aside, stay alive. And so please, I know that you can get very excited. I got really excited when I saw my first dust storm, but just make sure that you are always safe when you're making these observations. So we want to make sure to point that out. So how to make the observations? Again, you start in the Globe Observer app, you pick on clouds, you select new cloud observations. If your device has cell data, it'll read your latitude and longitude location. If it does not have cell data, you enter it by hand. And why do I mean this? Some teachers use the Globe Observer app in their classroom because it does help you collect observations and save them even when it's not connected to Wi-Fi or cell data. So just make sure that when you're doing the observations that you can get an accurate latitude and longitude observation, because it's going to be very important as the scientists co-locate or figure out where your observation was at and compare to their forecasting model. Okay, if you do have cell service or some sort of Wi-Fi connection to your device, it'll read it automatically. Then you can also verify in a map how accurate those observations are of your location. Now, this next question is going to ask you again in the clouds portion, are there clouds or is there an obscuration? So overcast is not the same as obscuration. They're not written the same, they don't mean the same, but it can be very, very confusing, especially when you look at the picture. So let me go over the definitions first, okay? Obscuration is when something like dust, haze, sand, something like that will block your view of sky and clouds. And so in the picture, the top picture on the right is a great example of what can happen. So, oops, let me try that again. Actually, I found a laser pointer. So this picture right here is a great example of an obscuration. There is something blocking the view of the sky and clouds. You can see the sky and clouds over here, but there's this big, massive wall of dust, in this case, coming towards this person who is safe inside of a inside of a car or building, right? Okay, making that observation. So that is an obscuration. But when you talk about obscuration, you might think of a time when it kind of looks, the sky looks like this. And this is actually overcast. And this is when clouds completely cover the sky. And this is kind of hard for kiddos to understand because kids are expecting these nice puffy clouds with their nice white edges and blue contrast. And they don't necessarily realize that when they see this picture here on the bottom, that those are clouds and it's actually overcast. So overcast, not obscuration. Now, because we're reporting dust, that is an obscuration. So we want you to click on obscuration, which is that third option on the app in this screen. And then you'll see a number of different options asking you what is happening where you're at. What do you see? Now, when you look in the first options, you'll see rain and snow, like it's really heavy rain, heavy snow. You'll see sand as well. Just keep scrolling all the way until you see dust closer to the bottom. So we want you to click on dust. The next thing that the app is going to make you do is go over the surface conditions. So we want you to look down and tell us, what do you see? And these are simple yes or no questions. Is it muddy? Is the ground dry? Is it raining or snowing? All these different things. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because the app has you make up cloud pictures, so it'll make you look up. But when you're looking at an obscuration, we actually want you to take a picture of the horizon, of what's happening as things are approaching you, not necessarily high up into the sky. So this is the trick that you have to do to make those horizon pictures. Okay, so do not click on take pictures. I know that that's very tempting. It's a green big button that says take pictures. Don't click on that. There's another one that says skip pictures. Don't click on that either, because we really, really, really want those pictures. And so there's a small gray button right smack in the middle. Think of it as the jelly of the pictures. And it says add pictures manually. That's what we want you to hit. Okay, once you hit there, you'll have kind of like a weird screen. It'll say take pictures of the sky, question mark, and then you'll see north, south, east, west, up, down. If you've used the app before to make cloud observations, you'll know that it'll ask you to put a letter instead of a circle in each cardinal direction, north, south, east, west, and it'll make you look up. And so this is going to have those same pictures as well as up and down. But now you can click on this little camera icon, let's say for north, and then this is what you'll see. You'll see three options: take photo, choose existing, or cancel. So here it's up to you. Maybe it's something that happened and you took your picture, so you would choose existing picture from your library and then upload your picture. And if you think it was north, that's fine. Or you can click on take pictures if it's happening right then and there. And then it'll open your camera and then you can take your picture. You can also add some comments, but all we really want is your latitude and longitude location, which is read by the app, and then your picture. And then just point your camera at the horizon and take your picture. This is my picture when I was in Tucson. There was a storm. I could see, it's kind of grainy, but you can see them. I could see the dust going all the way up and some dust devils happening. So again, ignore that nice green button, ignore that yellow button right there, choose the gray button, and then pick which cardinal direction you want your picture to be in, north, south, east, west, and then either take photo or choose existing picture. And as always, we want you safe, because we would like more observations from you from all the other ways that you can submit observations through the Globe Observer app. So always stay safe, stay inside of a building or vehicles. Okay, so this is the main way we want you to make these observations. Here are some pictures of people that have already submitted their dust observations that we found in the data set. So we know that you guys are already observing and you're submitting. We just wanted to make make up some steps that are easy for everybody to use in case there is a dust storm happening. So this is a storm approaching the Canary Islands right here. And then this is a different view, again, from the Canary Islands near Spain, from a big Saharan dust storm. So any type of dust storm that you might see, we want those pictures. So where do we want observations from? We actually want them from anywhere. We want them from anything. If you see a dust devil, if you see a haboob, if you see a dust storm, a sandstorm, anything like that, we want those observations, because right now we're working with these two primary scientists, but there's researchers all around the world that are very interested in a wide variety of things and observations from the ground. There's really no good observations from the ground of dust storms. And so this is really exciting and really innovating for the research community. What we are interested right now is observations of the Southwest region. And this is just a map of temperature. But again, in this area where we know that there's a lot of dust and deserts, all that travel, even if you're not necessarily in that region, but you see the dust approaching you. Again, I'm from Puerto Rico, so we get Saharan dust approaching us, and in Florida as well. So if you're in any of those regions where you are observing dust approaching you, we want those observations and we want those pictures as well. Okay, so I'm just checking the chat, making sure that everything is okay. So let me go through some activities and why is it so important. So let me play this video. I'm going to pause my camera and let's watch this video together. Okay, great. And so just like the video said, there are many reasons why these types of observations are important. Dust transportation is natural, but because of things that are changing in our world, different temperature types, the different types rain patterns, some areas are experiencing some dryness out of the normal dryness and things like that, or because of issues with irrigation, farming, things like that, there are more and more issues with these dust storms, and they can cause irritations in our skin. It can cause heart issues. You can travel, diseases can travel within it as well. So there's a number of issues. And this video was made by the WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, and it showed the 3 nodes of where they're looking at dust. And they are also interested in this data. So again, researchers around the world are really interested in your observations of these dust storms in order to better their forecast, and just like the video showed, to be able to give them warnings to different people so that they can be safe. Even here in the Southwest US, there are some issues with some health issues and some diseases that can travel with the dust. And so your observations are going to make a huge impact. Now, let's talk about the resources. How can you get others involved? So if you're an educator, informal educator, classroom teacher, you just are excited about this, here are some things or resources that you can use, either in your classroom, in a library setting, things like that, but also for you to learn more about this topic. So the resources are in that link. It should be available in the chat as well. Let me check one more time. So activities. One of my favorite activities is trying to figure out what's in the air. And so Globe has a number of different activities that I would recommend. One of them is from the elementary books. So Globe has different elementary books, and each of the books have activities. And so one of them is collecting some aerosols. So what I did is I used a clipboard and I put some contact paper on it, set it out. And so I wrote my starting time. And then when I was ready, so the contact paper was this, I put this piece of paper with the grid on it, and then wrote down when I ended my collection time. And the cool thing about this is that it has grids, so I can look at what's inside of each grid and count. The first thing that popped up was somebody lost a leg, I guess, outside. Poor little insect. Sorry. But then you can count what's in the air and do some estimations with this. The Teach Engineering, I Breathe What is a similar activity as well, but instead of a larger piece of paper, which is great for little ones, you can use a large index card, cut the center of it, put tape, kind of like if you were making your own slide or a microscope. And then the same thing, you can try and seal it as well and look under a microscope. You can have these, what are these guys? Sorry, English is failing me right now. What are these? Lupas is how we call them. And
magnifier.
Magnifying glass, thank you. My awesome friend Cassie behind the scenes, magnifying glasses. So you can have these out and then really look into what did you collect. In the bottom, again, I used to look at aerosols and collect them and look at them under a microscope. These are some pictures of aerosols under an electron microscope. So that is how volcanic ash looks like, pollen, sea salt, and soot or black carbon. Some of the other activities is the NASA EO Kids. EO stands for Earth Observatory. There is a neat one about air pollution. So these are kind of little magazines that are great for kids. They go into the information about, in this case, air pollution. And then there's a different way of collecting dust particles as well, with petroleum jelly in a plate, which is shown by the kid. The other NASA EO Kids that I would recommend is From School to NASA Earth Science. There's, it talks about the Globe Observer app, but then it talks about 3 NASA scientists and how they became researchers themselves, and it has cute pictures of them when they were kids. So highly recommend those 2. EO Kids, Air Pollution, and From NASA, From School to NASA Earth Science. Another activity. Now, this is all dependent on the soil and the soil of your area. And so some of the other globe activities I would recommend are related to soils. So getting to know your soil in your community and what happens to it. And so there is an activity called Soil Makers. Let me get my laser pointer again. Here, it's called Soil Makers. You use a pan, and the idea is that you make lines at an equidistance so that you can see how things move. In this activity, you have soil, and then you mimic different things. The picture on the bottom is mimicking wind, but you can also have glaciers. You can do flash flood and just pour a bunch of water and see what happens. Does it soak? Does it just flow over the soil? Different things like that. So it's a really neat activity. I'm just pointing out that you can, the wind portion, and it tells you exactly how to do it. A really neat visual activity, but you can do erosion, you can do glacier, you can do flash flood, you can do a number of different things that might be topics that are big or important in your area. There is a similar activity for the Globe Elementary book. So there's an elementary book about soils, the scoop on soil. And again, all these books have their own activities. So the one that our team loves here in NASA Langley is Getting to Know Soil. In this one, you get to touch the soil, look at the soil with the magnifying glasses or lupas. You see if it has any smell, and you can test them. So I was a chemistry major, so you grab something and you just go like this, you know. So show them how to take a smell of the object, right? But kids can get into it, and then you can introduce what soil is composed of: sand, silt, or clay, and then go into what do you find most in your backyard. And then you can do a cultural tie into maybe something, if there's a lot of art with clay in your community or in your area, things like that. One of my favorites is Just Passing Through. This is really exciting. You put soil, different types of soil, in a water bottle. You invert it upside down, and you pour water. You can pour it slowly. You can pour it really fast, and then see what happens, right? You can time how fast the water goes through it. So talking about the difference between something that's mostly sand or has a lot of organics or dry, right? You can look at the color of the water. That picture is excellent looking at the different colors. You can do pH as well. So this one lends itself to being a more demonstration type of activity, but also one that you can dig into it and really look at the different things. Again, this is very important as well, because where you see dust storms and sandstorms, the soil is mostly small particles, right? The larger particles will drop off quicker, and then the smaller particles will travel a longer distance, right? So again, I'm from Puerto Rico, so the Saharan dust is coming from a long ways away. So all those smaller particles are the ones that I tend to see when I was in Puerto Rico. It's a really cool activity, both visually as a demonstration, or one that you can do a lot of chemistry with it as well. There's a few articles and readings that the team has found. There's Weather with Kids, a very simple reading, but it goes into what is a sandstorm, what is a dust storm, how do they occur, in very simple language, very nicely written and simple, visual for kids. One of my coworkers, Angie Rizzi, found this amazing article about Kay Melia. He's a gardener, and he was around during the Dust Bowl, which is a big event that happened in the 1930s for the United States. So what I love about this one is that there's an audio of Mr. Melia talking about his recollection and how he would try to move the grasshoppers off from one type of plant into the soybeans so they would not kill off all the crops. But there's also the reading. So you have both media types available in that reading. NASA has some really cool resources related to dust. There's the Journey of Dust. Again, all these are available in the list of resources. This is a really neat pamphlet that talks about what is dust, what is a dust storm, and then it has actual NASA data from satellites of dust, the implications, how does NASA track dust, and then the impact in the research community. There's another one that you will find that says NASA explains the Dust Bowl, a little bit higher level reading, but it explains how the link between sea surface temperatures related to the Dust Bowl event. Okay, so this would be really neat if you're talking about any circulations like El Niño, La Niña, how Earth is a system, right? It's not just one thing individual from the other, but how even the surface temperatures all the way in the far Atlantic had an impact on what was happening in the Southwest US at that point time in history. And then a much more advanced reading is Modeling the Dust Bowl Climate Forcings. This is kind of like a summary of a research paper that NASA did on what was happening during the Dust Bowl using modeling and satellite data. So there's 3 different levels of reading that you can use either for yourself or in a classroom, things like that. Visualizations. I put some videos there. There's one video. All videos are from the WMO. The first one is Protecting People from Sand and Sun Dust Storms. It's a almost 6 minute long video. It talks about the importance. It has pictures, videos of different areas going through dust storms, and it interviews scientists that are issuing these warnings or looking at the data. So it's a really interesting one to look at the effects. It also goes through the physical effects of dust and the what happens to crops with dust storms and things like that, but also the warning system. The other ones available are these sand and dust storm videos, which we saw one of them. I really like these. I think these would be really good as an introduction, or even if you are in a library or museum setting, this could be just running behind the scenes. I played them in English, but they're also available in Spanish and Arabic. Really good videos, nice visuals that are available about dust and sandstorms. Yes, it does have audio, but it's just music. So it's more of a lyrical video, if you want to describe it that way. NASA visualizations. There's a lot of really cool visualizations made by NASA. By the Visualization Studios and NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. This is just one. It does have audio, but you can also play it without audio. And then for this one, it just runs through, I believe, a whole month. You can see smoke in North America, so the white is smoke. The blue is sea salt, and then you see all that sand coming towards the Caribbean and North America. So it's really a captivating video. I'm just gonna turn my video off so you can see it. And those names are the hurricanes for that season. Okay, so that is also available there. Really cool animation that can just be there. You can play it and ask, what do you see? There's a lot of things that you see. It's captivating. I would suggest just focusing on one, maybe one type of aerosol like dust, and then the smoke, because there's a lot of fires happening in the northern regions, and then all the salt that's everywhere and how that affects the Earth system. And there's also NASA data that's available. So that was NASA data, but it's a visualization or a video. You can go into Worldview. It's a really cool simple way to access NASA data. So if you do cloud observations, you know that whenever you submit a cloud observation, if you were making the observations around the same time or about the same time as a NASA satellite, you would get a satellite match, right? We are the team that does that. If you do match to any of the Ceres instrument on board Terra or Aqua satellites, you would get the picture on the bottom of your satellite match table. You get a link to Worldview, and then it centers Worldview right in your latitude and longitude. And you can scroll in, scroll out, look at different things. For this link of Worldview, it puts you straight into a dust storm, and you can see the dust. Let me highlight it here. Lisa pointed. You can see the dust right here. Okay, so there's a lot of things happening here. And this is Northern Africa. Here's Italy, Greece. White, in this case, is clouds. There's probably some snow too. I say that because when I look in the bottom left here, it shows me the year, so 2018, February 7th. But you see this brownish layer right here, that is dust. And so what you can do is you can scroll this back and forth. There's also a play button. If you hit on video, it'll ask you, you can put the start and end time and then play a video, and then you can see this moving along. And then you can see the clouds moving, and then whatever is white that stays there, like I'm guessing that this over here is, some of this is snow. You can then see the snow staying there. If you click on Add Layers, you can then look at all the different types of NASA data that you can add to it. It's nicely divided into different aspects like air quality, dust storms, fires, ash plumes, floods. So it's up to you how you want to make your adventure with the NASA data. Once you click on one of those, then it'll open the NASA satellite or the data for a particular satellite that's looking into that. And so it's really neat data set. Again, this is showing you February 2018, but you can actually go into today, or I believe it would be yesterday, the latest data, and look at what was observed through NASA satellites. This was really cool. So at ArcGIS, there's a Dust Bowl geo inquiries. And so this is an interactive that you can, if you click on content, you can look at where was the dust sources, precipitation graphs that were measured, the percent counties that were farms. So you can play around with this if you are doing GIS in your classroom, or you have a GIS lab, if you have a computer lab. This would be a really neat thing to play with, to see what was the impact, how much was it impacted, what was the weather that was happening during that time that led to the Dust Bowl. So really neat interactive here with ArcGIS. And then there is a number of blogs and visualizations under NASA Earth Observatory as well, related to dust and haze. And so that link will give you to everything that's dust or haze related. So you'll see the image of the day for that particular day. Every day there's an image of the day with a story about what is happening, what's been observed. And then, of course, Mars. Who doesn't love Mars? I love Mars. It's the only planet inhabited by robots. I blew a lot of kids' minds when I said that. But if you're having a bad day, just think of the poor Curiosity rover and the dust storms that it's probably observing. But you can look at the weather on that page. It also has, just like we have satellites, geostationary satellites looking at the Earth, there are satellites looking at Mars to try and predict these storms on Mars. So you can also do that and correlate to it. Books, again, there is the Globe Elementary books. We're just highlighting two of them, the Scoop on Soils and What's Up in the Air, because it's about aerosols. These books are free and available in different languages. There are a set of different types of books as well, and each of the books have their own activities, and these activities are also in different languages, but they're also free as ebooks. So you can either print them yourself, look at them as PDF, or as a free ebook. And then we put a suggested list for kids and young adults related to the Dust Bowl, because it is a huge event that was well documented in the US. So that can be very exciting for you to share or use in the classroom. So again, my name is Marile Colon-Robles, atmospheric scientist, education specialist, the lead for, or the project scientist for Globe Clouds. You can reach me at marile.colonrobles@nasa.gov. I want to thank you for being here today with me and with the team. If you do have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. But we really, really, really want to start seeing your observations coming in. So thank you so much, everybody.
Marile, there's a question in the Q&A.
Okay.
If you don't have cell or Wi-Fi service to automatically get your Latin long, can you leave this blank, save the observation, and then enter this info later, like when you go back and look it up and submit it later?
That's an interesting question, Teresa. If there's anybody else from the Globe Observer team, I would open their suggestions, but I believe it will not let you pass that step without entering a latitude and longitude. So if you don't have your latitude and longitude and you don't have a way to collect it, like there's different apps where you can just open and it'll tell you the latitude and longitude. Take the picture and then submit the picture once you have a latitude and longitude. So take the picture, look at the time, and then when you do have a latitude and longitude, go into the Globe Observer app, and then you can submit it. Awesome. Any other questions? ¿Alguna otra pregunta? Okay, so I'll let you guys noodle on all those things, resources. We really want to start getting those pictures and observations from you. So thank you once again for giving us of your time. Thank you, teachers, for what you do. Thank you, educators all around the world, informal, in the classroom, everything. Thank you so much. And just send us in those observations from anywhere you're at. But always be safe, as always, okay? Thank you so much. Bye, guys.